A sharp clang cuts through the cold morning air, echoing along the stone halls as if warning that something precious is slipping away. Lio freezes mid-step, heart pounding, because he hears whispers, not calm ones, but frightened ones, rushing toward Elder Ranan's room. Monks move past him with tense faces, and for a moment the world feels tilted, as though the mountain itself is holding its breath. Lio follows the sound, pushed by a fear he cannot name. At the doorway, he sees Elder Ranan sitting upright, too still, too pale, refusing the bowl placed in front of him. His hand trembles, not because he is weak, but because he has chosen something terrifying. Before anyone can ask why, Ranan lifts his eyes toward the ceiling as if listening to a voice only he, and Lio feels the ground shift beneath him, knowing something life-changing is about to be spoken, but not yet revealed. Lio steps closer, staying behind the others, trying to make sense of the sight before him. No one dares to speak. Elder Ranan sits as though carved from the morning sun, breathing slow, steady, and certain. The bowl beside him gives off a warm scent of rice and herbs, yet he doesn't even glance at it. Taro kneels and whispers something too soft to hear, but Ranan only shakes his head. Lio wonders why anyone would choose hunger, why anyone would push their body to such a place. The silence grows heavier, until Ranan finally opens his eyes, looking straight at Lio, as if he has been waiting only for him. Suri slips in beside Lio, gently nudging his elbow. She whispers that the elders have been worried for days, but no one expected this. Lio barely hears her. His eyes stay fixed on Ranan's face. Something about the elder's expression holds both peace and deep warning. Ranan slowly raises a hand and gestures for the monks to leave him. One by one, they step back, unsure but obedient. Lio feels his heart pounding harder, unsure why Ranan's gaze keeps returning to him, almost pulling him closer, almost calling him. The room empties until only Lio, Taro, and Suri remain. Then Ranan speaks, his voice soft, but somehow filling every corner of the room. He says hunger is not the problem. Desire is. Lio feels the words land heavily, as though meant only for him. Ranan explains nothing more, simply closing his eyes with a tired sigh. Taro tries to ask questions, but the elder will not answer. Lio feels a strange pull, a need to know more, a need to understand why he was the one Ranan looked at first. When they finally step out of the room, Lio feels the cool hallway air hit him like a wave. Suri asks what Ranan meant, but Lio shakes his head. He doesn't know, not yet. Taro walks ahead with a heavy stride, already planning to alert the other elders. Lio lingers for one last look at the dim doorway behind him. In that moment, he senses something he cannot explain. Ranan's choice wasn't an act of weakness, but a message written in silence, and somehow, Lio knows that message is meant for him alone. The morning routine feels heavier than usual as Lio tries to sweep the courtyard stones. Each stroke of the broom slows when he remembers Ranan's calm face, refusing the bowl. Monks pass around him, whispering clipped words, some frightened, some confused. Lio keeps hearing Ranan's voice, echoing in his mind, telling him that hunger is not the problem. The words keep circling, refusing to settle. Suri approaches with a bucket of water, watching him carefully. She tells him to stop thinking too much, but Lio can't. He keeps wondering why Ranan chose him with that first look, why the elders seemed to see something inside him that even he couldn't name. A restless unease builds in his chest, growing stronger with every breath. Master Taro calls the young monks to gather beneath the old cedar tree. His voice holds a firmness that tries to hide worry, but Lio senses it anyway. Taro explains that Elder Ranan's choice is not to be questioned, but to be respected. Still, the weight in his eyes says he fears what might come next. As the group disperses, Taro pulls Lio aside, asking if Ranan spoke to him directly. Lio hesitates before admitting that the elder looked at him more than once. Taro frowns, trying to understand why, But Leo has no answers, only a rising sense that something is about to change, and he will not be able to avoid it. Later, when the bells ring for midday tasks, Leo heads toward the storage room to fetch firewood. But when he steps inside, he stops short. Elder Ranon sits on a low stool near the wall as if he had been waiting. Leo's breath catches. Ranon lifts his gaze slowly, eyes gentle but sharp beneath the softness. He asks Leo whether he knows what he truly wants in life. The question hits like a stone. Leo tries to answer, but the words won't come. Ranon doesn't push. Instead, he simply nods, as though Leo's silence is an answer of its own. Leo feels the weight of something shifting, something quiet but powerful. Ranon gestures for Leo to sit, and though his legs feel shaky, he obeys. The elder speaks slowly, telling Leo that desire can guide a person toward truth, or drag them into endless hunger. Leo listens, trying to understand. Ranon asks him to recall the last time he felt truly satisfied. Leo struggles to think of a moment. The elder smiles softly, almost sadly, as though he already expected that answer. He lifts a wooden cup of water, looks at it, then sets it aside untouched. Leo watches in silence, feeling a strange sting in his chest, as if seeing something important slip through his fingers. Before Leo can ask questions, Taro appears at the doorway, startled to find Ranon outside his room. He rushes to help the elder stand, but Ranon waves him off with a faint smile. Leo rises quickly, unsure whether to step forward or back. Taro scolds Leo gently, telling him this is not the time for lingering curiosity. But Ranon interrupts, saying that curiosity is exactly what Leo needs. The words settle heavily between them. Taro's worry deepens, yet he stays silent. Leo feels pulled in two directions, between duty and the mystery unfolding before him. That night, the wind howls around the monastery walls, rattling the wooden shutters. Leo lies awake on his thin mat, staring at the ceiling while shadows twist across the stone. He can't stop replaying Ranon's words. Desire can guide or drag. What did that mean for someone like him, who always wanted something more? More freedom, more flavor, more answers. Sarai whispers from her mat, asking if he's still awake. Leo doesn't reply. He's afraid that if he speaks, the questions rising inside him will spill out and never stop. The wind grows louder, almost like a voice calling from somewhere deep in the mountain. Leo pulls his blanket tighter, feeling both small and strangely chosen. Before sunrise, Leo wakes from a dream so vivid it makes his chest ache. He dreamt of Ranon standing alone at the cliff's edge, facing the rising sun with empty hands. Leo feels shaken, as if the dream carried a message he wasn't ready to understand. When he steps outside, he sees Elder Ranon slowly making his way up the stone path toward the meditation terrace. The elder's steps are weak but steady. Leo follows at a distance, unsure if he is meant to. The sky fades from deep blue to soft pink, painting the clouds in gentle light. For a moment, the world feels fragile, as if everything could break with the wrong breath. When Ranon reaches the terrace, he sits facing the valley below. Leo steps closer, unsure whether to speak. The elder breaks the silence first, saying that desire is a river, gentle when understood, dangerous when ignored. Leo listens carefully, wanting to grasp every word. Ranon tells him that people chase what they want, without ever asking why they want it. Leo feels a heaviness in his chest, remembering every moment he complained about chores, every time he wished for more than he had. Ranon looks at him with soft eyes, as if seeing those moments written on his face. Leo lowers his gaze, feeling exposed. Ranon reaches for a small pebble beside him and places it gently in Leo's hand. He tells him to hold it tightly. Leo squeezes it until his fingers hurt. Then Ranon tells him to open his hand. When he does, the pebble rolls away, slipping between the stones. Ranon explains that clinging too tightly to a desire can crush the very thing we hope to understand. Letting go, he says, it is not losing. It is allowing the truth to breathe. Lio stares at his empty palm, confused but touched by the strange lesson. Something warm flickers inside him, like a glow he cannot name. As the sun rises fully, Renan grows visibly weaker. Lio can see it in the way the elder's shoulders sag and the slow lift of his breaths. Worry churns in his stomach. He wants to call for help, but Renan gestures for him to stay. The elder tells him that strength is not found in resisting everything, but in choosing what to embrace. Lio nods, swallowing hard, knowing he is hearing something that will shape him forever. When Renan closes his eyes to rest, Lio sits beside him silently, feeling the weight of a truth that is only beginning to unfold. By midday, the sky grows thick with clouds, casting a gray shadow across the monastery. Lio carries a wooden bucket toward the garden, but his thoughts are far from the work in his hands. Every moment with Renan repeats in his mind, each word, each pause, the faint tremble in the elder's voice. Suri finds him near the bamboo fence and asks why he looks so distant. Lio tries to explain, but the truth feels too tangled. He worries that if he says the wrong thing, the fragile meaning of Renan's lessons will slip away. Suri listens quietly, letting the silence settle between them. She reminds him that lessons aren't meant to be understood at once. Lio nods, though the weight inside him still refuses to lift. Master Taro approaches them with a stern expression, calling both young monks to follow him. Lio's stomach tightens as they walk through the narrow hall toward the elders' quarters. Taro explains that Renan has grown weaker and refuses any care. His voice cracks slightly, though he tries to hide it. When they arrive, Lio sees the elder sitting by the window, breathing slowly, sunlight resting gently across his shoulders. Taro kneels and speaks with urgency, but Renan only smiles, calm as ever. Lio feels a pull inside him, a quiet urging to come closer. Something about the stillness in the room feels like the edge of a moment they won't get back. Renan raises a hand, motioning Lio closer. Lio steps forward until he stands beside him. The elder whispers that desire becomes dangerous when it grows louder than the truth inside a person. Lio tries to understand, but confusion mixes with fear. Renan tells him he once struggled with the same hunger, a wanting that never stopped growing until he learned to listen instead of chase. Lio looks into the elder's eyes and sees both strength and the fading light of someone nearing the end. His heart thunders painfully. He doesn't want to lose Renan. Not now. Not before he understands everything. Suri stands quietly in the doorway, watching the exchange. She senses the shift in the air, the way the room feels heavier with unspoken meaning. Renan lifts his hand again, this time placing it gently over Lio's. He tells him that desire isn't something to fear. It is something to understand. Lio feels the elder's touch, warm but fading. The words settle deep into his chest, stirring something raw and honest. Suri steps closer, her eyes softening as she sees Lio struggling to hold himself together. The silence between them grows large, filled with truths none of them are ready to face. Renan's breath grows softer, almost like a whisper fading into the wind. He tells Lio that one day he will face a desire so strong it will scare him. But that moment will reveal who he truly is. Lio feels tears rise, shaking his head, wishing the elder would rest instead of speak such heavy words. Renan smiles faintly, saying this is not goodbye, but a final offering. As his hand slips away from Lio's, an aching stillness fills the room. Suri wipes her eyes. Taro bows his head. Lio stands frozen, holding the weight of the lesson in his heart, afraid of what it may mean for the days ahead. The next morning arrives with a heavy quiet, the kind that settles deep into the bones. Lio walks toward the meditation terrace, needing air, needing space to breathe. His mind is a storm of thoughts. Renan's fading voice, the trembling hand he held, the warning about a desire so strong it would frighten him. Lio wonders if he will ever understand what the elder meant. The valley below stretches wide and calm, so different from the chaos inside his chest. Surai finds him sitting on the cold stone, hugging his knees. She doesn't speak at first. She simply sits beside him, sharing the silence. Lio finally whispers that he's scared of what comes next. Surai nods, telling him that fear only means he cares deeply. Her words rest gently on the morning air. As the sun climbs higher, Master Taro gathers the monks in the courtyard. His voice is steady, but Leo feels the tension hiding beneath each word. Taro instructs them to continue their duties as normal, but nothing feels normal anymore. Leo watches the older monks whisper, worry carved into their faces. When Taro dismisses the group, he places a hand on Leo's shoulder, asking if he's holding up. Lio nods, even though the truth sits heavy in his stomach. Taro studies him for a long moment, as if searching for answers in the boy's eyes, then tells him that Ranan saw something in him, something important. Leo walks away with that thought echoing inside him, unsure whether to feel proud or afraid. Later, Lio returns to the storage room where he last spoke with Ranan. The air is cool, and the scent of dried wood lingers. He sits on the stool the elder once used, tracing his fingers along the worn surface. He wishes Ranan were still here to explain the lesson again, slowly, gently, in the way only he could. Lio picks up the small pebble that had rolled earlier, turning it over in his palm. He wonders how something so tiny could hold meaning. Closing his eyes, he tries to imagine the elder's voice explaining it once more. But the silence answers him instead, quiet, patient, waiting. As the day warms, Suri finds Leo again and asks him to help gather herbs near the garden walls. Leo agrees, grateful for something to do, something that keeps his hands busy while his heart tries to breathe. They walk together in quiet steps, picking leaves and sorting them into small baskets. Suri watches Lio struggle with his thoughts and finally tells him that Ranan didn't choose him by accident. She says that sometimes people see strength in us long before we see it in ourselves. Lio feels a slow heat rise in his chest, uncertain, uncomfortable, but also strangely hopeful. Maybe strength wasn't about feeling brave. Maybe it was about showing up, even when the world felt too heavy. That evening, the sky burns orange as the sun sinks behind the mountains. Lio walks alone toward the terrace, carrying the pebble in his hand. He feels the weight of the day pressing on him. The worry, the lessons, the quiet ache of losing someone he isn't ready to lose. As he reaches the edge, he opens his hand and lets the pebble fall. It bounces once before slipping into the valley below. Lio whispers that he doesn't fully understand yet, but he is trying. The wind lifts softly, brushing past his cheeks like a quiet answer. For the first time all day, his heart feels a little lighter. The next morning dawns cold and bright, the kind of light that makes every stone seem sharper. Lio wakes with a strange heaviness in his chest, as though the night carried something new into his heart. When he steps outside, the air bites at his skin, pushing fully awake. He sees Master Taro standing alone in the courtyard, staring toward Ranan's quarters with a look Lio has never seen before. Fear wrapped inside quiet acceptance. Lio approaches slowly, unsure whether to speak. Taro finally tells him that the elder asked to see him. Only him. The words make Lio's stomach twist. He nods, though part of him wants to run back inside and hide. But he remembers Ranan's warm, fading smile. So he gathers his courage and walks toward the room, feeling each step echo in his chest. Inside the room, Elder Ranan sits propped by cushions, his breathing thin, but his eyes still warm with something bright. When Lio steps in, the elder smiles, small but real. He tells Lio to sit close. Lio obeys, feeling his throat tighten. Ranan asks him what he fears most. Lio hesitates, wanting to hide the truth, but something Elder's gaze pulls honesty out of him. He admits that he fears wanting too much. Fears becoming lost in things he cannot control. Ranan nods gently, saying that fear is a sign of awareness, not weakness. Lio listens to the soft rasp of the elder's voice and feels something deeper settle within him. A quiet courage he didn't know he had. Renan reaches for Lio's hand with surprising steadiness. He tells him that desire is not an enemy. It is a fire. Too small, and life feels cold and empty. Too large, and it burns everything in its path. Lio listens closely, feeling every word sink into him like roots. The elder explains that his lesson was never about refusing food. It was about showing that even hunger itself can become a teacher if one learns to look inward. Lio holds the elder's hand, trying not to cry. Renan smiles softly, telling him that tears are nothing to be ashamed of. They are simply the heart speaking when the mouth cannot. Suri arrives quietly, carrying a bowl of warm water in a cloth. She stops when she sees Renan and Lio together, something sacred unfolding between them. Renan welcomes her with a small nod. He tells them both that desire becomes dangerous only when it blinds us from seeing what truly matters. Suri listens intently, her eyes softening with understanding. Lio watches her as she sets the bowl beside the elder, realizing how fear and hope mix strangely inside him. Renan tells them that the world is full of noise, but the heart always knows the difference between wanting and needing. The lesson settles in the air like a final breath of wisdom. As the day draws toward evening, Renan's breaths shorten. Lio feels panic rising, but the elder raises a hand gently, calming him without words. Ran tells him that all his teachings lead to one final truth, but he will speak it only when the moment is right. Lio leans forward, heart pounding, wanting to hold on to every second. Suri stands behind him, hands clasped tightly. Taro enters slowly, bowing his head as he senses how close the end is. The room grows still, almost sacred. Lio keeps his gaze fixed on Renan, waiting, afraid, and somehow ready. The elder closes his eyes for a moment, gathering his strength, leaving the final truth hanging in the air like a breath not yet released. Night falls softly over the mountain, the air so still, it feels like the world is listening. Lio sits beside Renan, afraid to blink in case the elder slips away in the space between breaths. Suri and Taro remain close, silent shadows holding their worry. Renan's eyes open slowly, and he looks at Lio with a warmth that reaches deeper than words. He tells him that the quiet inside a person is where truth hides, and that no desire can control someone who knows how to listen to that quiet. Lio feels something break open inside him, a mixture of fear, love, and aching gratitude. He squeezes the elder's hand, whispering that he's ready to hear the final truth. Renan smiles faintly, a smile filled with years of wisdom and gentle strength. Renan gathers a slow breath, each inhale thin as paper. He tells Lio that desire is not something to fight or destroy. It is something to understand, like a river that can either drown or guide. Lio leans closer, wanting to hold every word inside him forever. Renan says that most people chase their desires without ever asking who is doing the chasing. He tells Lio that the heart becomes free the moment a person learns to see the wanting without becoming it. The words fall into Lio like warm light, filling spaces he didn't know were empty. Suri wipes her eyes quietly, and Taro closes his hands in prayer. For a moment, the room feels suspended in time. The elder's breaths grow slower, pausing longer between each rise and fall. He asks Lio to place a hand over his own heart. Lio does, feeling the soft rhythm beneath his palm. Renan whispers that every desire in life will try to pull him in different directions, but this quiet beat will always tell him which path is real. Tears gather in Lio's eyes as the elder tells him that strength is not found in resisting desire, but in choosing the ones that lead toward truth. Lio whispers a promise that he will try, even if the road feels heavy. Renan's eyes soften with pride. Suri sniffles behind him, and even Taro wipes away a quiet tear. The room grows so quiet that Lio can hear the faint rustle of wind against the window. Renan lifts his hand slightly, beckoning Lio closer. With the last of his strength, he whispers the words that will stay with Lio for the rest of his life. Desire does not own you. You choose what you follow. Lio's breath catches. The elder's hand falls gently, resting beside him. Leo leans forward, whispering thank you, words that tremble with love and sorrow. Surai begins to cry softly, and Taro bows low, his forehead touching the floor. In that fragile moment, Leo realizes that Ranan's final lesson was not about hunger at all. It was about freedom. Ranan's final breath leaves his body like a quiet sigh, peaceful and gentle. Lio sits frozen, feeling the moment settle into him with deep ache. Suri comes to his side, placing a hand on his shoulder. Taro steps forward, lifting his head with solemn respect. The room feels both empty and full. Empty of Ranan's voice, but full of the lessons he left behind. Lio closes his eyes, repeating the elder's final words in his heart. You choose what you follow. As the lantern flickers, Lio rises slowly, feeling something new inside him, a strength shaped by grief, love, and truth. He steps outside into the cool night air, knowing he will carry Ranan's teaching through every path ahead, no matter how heavy or bright.